Hi there, you're listening to No Limits, a PlayStation podcast, and Sony has finally made an acquisition. We'll talk about it in a moment. Welcome back from the intro. Such a good song. And the video is really cool as well. If you haven't seen the video before and you're just listening on podcasts, you can come over to the YouTube and just subscribe while you're there. But also look at the intro video. It's really cool. I like it.
It's just videos of Taylor dancing.
That's true. Twerking.
Yeah. Yep. Doing
Have
the
you
floss as well.
heard the song Water by Tyler? He's doing that dance.
That is more of a niche reference than you're probably expecting, because I haven't got a clue what you mean.
It's okay. You're not on TikTok. The TikTokers will understand.
Okay.
We're actually not going to talk about the acquisition until the very end of the show. I'm sorry to
What
lead you in. Yeah, I'm sorry to lead you in like that. I felt guilty immediately for lying.
I mean, you didn't lie. We are going to talk about it. But
I said soon, though. I guess relative in time, it's pretty soon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Remember, you can find the video version of this podcast over on youtube.com/SaveTheGameMedia every Tuesday. While you're over there, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you'd rather listen on audio, we are on all of your favorite podcast services, and we would love it if you leave us a review. It does help us grow, and we do love any feedback. If you do want to support Save the Game Media and get early access to all of our content, you can head over to patreon.com/SaveTheGameMedia. Starts from just literally $1, and if we make it to 1,000 patrons of individual, you all only have to donate $1. If we make it to 1,000 patrons, then 2 of our members will be getting tattoos on their butts, and if that's not worth $1, I don't know what is. Just like our current patrons supporting us, right? We have Bucky Blue, Amon, Fabulous Brianna, Brianna's mom, Brianna's brother, Brianna's wife, Nikolai at Night, Cypher Primus, Brendan Myers, Marcus O'Neill, Lillian, Mimi J, The Snack Network, David Hotright, Dave Harp, The Xbox Expansion Pass, Alpaca and Lee Navarro. Again, patreon.com/SaveTheGameMedia, and YouTube, Save the Game Media, Twitter, Save Game Media, or X, excuse me. All that fun stuff. You know what's going to be so funny, Sam, is one of these times somebody's going to finally join Patreon and it's going to be like, I'm donating $1 to go towards the butt tattoo funds.
I don't know. I don't think so.
It's going to be so funny when it happens. That'll probably be the end of me. Anyways, how are you? What have you been up to? What are you playing? All that fun stuff.
I'm tired, but I'm fine.
How many hours of sleep are you running on today?
3.5.
Damn.
I haven't been up to much. I mean, that's a lie. I've been up to plenty, but a lot of personal sorting stuff out around the house, that kind of thing. Nothing exciting or work. So been nice to be away from big projects that are all consuming for a few days. There's not much else going on with me. What have I been playing? I was, I think, last week when we were talking, playing through Alan Wake 2.
Mm-hmm.
I have since finished it. I have platinumed it.
Okay.
If you listen, listeners, to the Spider-Man 2 review and spoiler cast that me and Kyle did a week or two ago, which I highly recommend, available now. We were both pretty dead set on the idea that Spider-Man 2 was going to be our game of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I am now not so sure.
Really?
Which upsets me because I want to go to bat for Spider-Man like really badly. Easily the most fun I've had in a game for a long time. Best superhero game ever made, yada yada yada. We talk about it in this podcast.
What about the Avengers game? Just kidding.
Don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. As someone who platinumed that game twice, just it's dead now. It's been removed from storefronts. Just let it die.
Okay.
Yeah, like it's Alan Wake 2 isn't definitely going to be my game of the year, but I think that it's far closer of a race between that and Spidey than I ever thought possible. Mainly because, again, we talked about it, but like I played Alan Wake, the original, not long after it came out, back in 2010. Liked it, didn't love it, and then obviously Control came. Fell in love with Remedy through that. And I had my eyes on Alan Wake 2, but I'm not like a massive survival horror person. I've played through RE2 remake in the past year, and I loved that. But outside of that, I don't do the Dead Space stuff. Not because I am scared, but like I just don't like the type of games and the economy and inventory management. That kind of annoys me more than anything. Alan Wake 2 has all of that. And obviously the reason that I purchased it, day of release, is because of all of the glowing previews and reviews. Like they were saying 10 out of 10's game of the year contender. I was like, well, I love Control, and a lot of people are saying it's better than Control, so I should probably try it. Yeah, and I adore it. I think I said it last week. Somebody needs to be acquiring Remedy yesterday. I think that they are potentially as great of a steal as Insomniac was for Sony and PlayStation. Relatively cheap in comparison to buying like a publisher or a bigger developer. They're not a massive team. They're a decent sized team, but not massive. And I still don't think that they are. Alan Wake 2 is going to get them there, I think, or very close to it. They're not fully mainstream, known industry-wide on the mainstream scale, for consumers in the same way that Bethesda or an Insomniac, I guess, might be, a Naughty Dog or a Rockstar, that kind of thing. They don't quite have that recognition yet, I don't think, on a global scale, but I think they're very close. So I think that they could be relatively affordable. Probably more expensive than Insomniac were, because Insomniac were ridiculously cheap. But with Alan Wake 2 and the innovation that it brings, and I was saying Ashtray Maze from Control, there is a section of Alan Wake 2 that just ramps it, that kind of thing, up to an 11. Like genuinely one of the best things I've ever seen in a game. And I think that, with potentially more Alan Wake coming, we know that more Control is coming. They have the whole Remedy Connected Universe thing going on. I think that if somebody snagged them now and got all of that stuff as first party, there's real potential there. Not just in terms of talent, because obviously they are a very talented studio, but innovation and bringing something that is genuinely very, very unique and singular to Remedy themselves that you just aren't seeing in any other game. Not even close. So, yeah, I really can't sing Alan Wake 2's praises enough. I really don't know which one is going to be my game of the year. which is absurd because coming out of Spider-Man 2, I've said it quite a few times this year, if you remember.
I do remember. I was just about to ask you about it.
This is going to be my game of the year. Like I said that when I finished Final Fantasy 16. I was like, yep, this is going to be my game of the year. And then obviously Spider-Man came along, and now this. I batted very early on in the year for Cheer, and Cheer is still high up in where I'm going to scale rank things. But yeah, it's rough. It's rough. I don't know where I'm going to land.
So what happened to, I guess, you were such a huge fan of Final Fantasy 16. I guess I'm curious, like, how that not went down, but like what happened?
I think it's in the. I still hold Final Fantasy 16 to a very high regard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I still think it's an excellent game. I disagree with people who think that it's a bad game, or I disagree with a lot of the detractions and criticisms that people levy against it. That being said, there are definitely criticisms. I mean, I've never proclaimed that it's a perfect game or anything. Nothing ever is. But in the same way that I'm never going to play it. Oh, I guess never say never, but like when Tears of the Kingdom came out early in the year, people were like, well, nothing's going to beat this. And they were like dead set because they hadn't experienced anything in the year that was on the scale or scope or breadth or whatever of that journey, that experience. And that Final Fantasy 16 was that for me,
Yeah.
It exposed me to Final Fantasy, which I never really cared about all that much. I said when I finished it, I was like, if they make more Final Fantasies like this, I will be purchasing them day one. So yeah, it is like, obviously recency bias can be a factor there, but I always try and weigh my opinions devoid of that. I try to think in 2 or 3 months time, when I'm not playing this every day and working my way through this every day for hours on end, will I look at each individual element of this game in as high a praise as I do now? And like I knew that I was going to cool on Final Fantasy 16 over time, particularly with Spider-Man 2 coming. I didn't really see Alan Wake rocketing up to the top of my list at all, but I knew Spider-Man was probably going to be up there, like second place, if not first. So yeah, it's kind of like what we're doing when we are reviewing the Marvel films for Are We Caught Up Yet, right?
Yeah.
I said in the most recent recording that it's not that these films are objectively worse than any of the others around it on our ranking. It's just that they are all varying degrees of good to great to excellent, and it just comes down to subjective personal taste at that point. So Final Fantasy 16 dropping down ranks isn't indicative of me thinking it's a worse game necessarily. It's just that Spider-Man 2, I had, like I said, more fun. I was never bored. I don't really have that many criticisms, if any, for it. I think it refined everything that it needed to from the games that preceded it. So that is up there. Obviously, superhero bias, blah, 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 Marvel shill. And then Alan Wake comes in, and it's not got me into survival horror because, again, still not that big of a fan of it. But the new and innovative and interesting, compelling stuff that it exposed to me in its narrative and some of its gameplay is then what ratcheted it up, because I think that if you play Alan Wake 2, you can dislike the gameplay, but I think that everything else that it presents is so impressive. Visuals, narrative, set pieces, meta stuff, multimedia, there's live action stuff in Alan Wake 2,
Mhm.
in the
And
same
in
way that there
Control.
was in Control. Yeah.
Mhm.
Like that kind of stuff is the reason Alan Wake 2 is so high, is not only because I think it's an excellent game, but because I think when I look back on this year, Alan Wake 2 is the game that I hope I see more people of varying studios in various ways iterate on those ideas the most.
Mhm.
I hope that Alan Wake 2 is what people draw from in terms of a game most going forwards, because if people can iterate and do interesting things in the vein of what Alan Wake 2 stuff does, I think that gaming could get even more interesting for me
Yeah.
in the years that follow its release this year. So
Yeah. I mean, the thing is like with games like Control and like Alan Wake 2, I assume, and stuff like that, it's I feel like it really takes advantage of being a video game as a medium and like
mhm.
having that visual and play aspect like
Yeah,
bundled as one. And I think that a lot of games, not that it's a bad thing, a lot of games do fall under the like this is basically like a movie but you play kind of
yeah,
thing. And so it's always fun to like have games that kind of break away and like do interesting things in their mechanics. So,
yeah.
yeah, I
And
think
it's not throwaway as well. Sorry, but just
no, you're
like
okay.
the multimedia live action stuff, it's not like, oh, we're doing this as a gimmick interesting thing. It's actually wholly and definitively interwoven into the narrative. Like there is a reason that these things are in live action,
Yeah.
that obviously I'm not going to spoil here, but like that stuff is real clever. Like Sam Lake, some people have been saying it, so I'm not going to take credit for it, but some people have been saying that Sam Lake is like the Hideo Kojima of the West. And
Mm,
I think that that's actually pretty accurate. Like he is a visionary that leads his studio that just does weird stuff, and it seems to click with a lot of people. And each time he does it, it clicks with more and more people. Um, so yeah, I like that idea. I don't want to inflate
yeah.
his ego too much, because obviously he's a very not narcissistic man, but he's a very, he knows what he's got going for him.
Yeah.
Um, but like he deserves his flowers, because the stuff that he's doing is getting better and better. So
Yeah. He's honing his craft.
he sure is.
Yeah. I think like because I'm so hesitant on Alan Wake 2, I think I'm gonna wait for it to go on sale, which I know is probably like a while.
Yeah,
But like I would rather spend a little bit less money so that way I'm like maybe not as antagonistic towards the game.
sure.
I'll think about it, but we'll see. But yeah.
Yeah, and it's weird. Like it's not a full price release,
No, it's like $10
which is
off or
yeah.
20
And I
depending
think
on
that
which platform.
yeah, like I think I bought it for 50,
It's
which,
on
and
the
obviously games are
US for
usually 70.
60. Yeah.
Yeah, so that checks out. Um, so well, I mean, I saved £20 technically,
Damn.
compared to a £70 release, which is the
If you
usual.
buy it on Epic, you do save $20 versus
Okay,
10.
all right.
But if
So
you buy it
there's
on PlayStation, it's only $10 off.
yeah, fair. Weird how, I mean, that's how conversion
They want
works,
you to
but
use
it's still
the yeah,
yeah.
they want you to use
Um,
Epic stuff, so
yeah, I mean, it's a free. You could just install it. It's free. You know.
I uninstalled it for a
Oh
reason.
dear, I'm not. I'm not even going to pry into that. That sounds like a can of worms that we should not open. Um, I yeah, and that it's a digital only. Like there's no physical copy, which
Yeah.
is a trend I do not like. I do not want to see it replicated, but it's probably going to be. Um,
I think I think that honestly this is going to keep happening. More and more games are
yeah,
just going to go digital cuz it saves on a lot of costs.
mhm.
So,
Which is probably why it's cheaper.
yeah.
Because it is lengthwise, like it took me 20 hours, which
Mhm.
is, you would get that for a $70 game, you know, or
Yeah.
certain $70 games. So it's not like it's shorter. It's not like it's a Miles Morales type thing where it can be beaten in 7 hours, you know. So I guess that they're cutting costs there, and therefore they don't have to charge as much. But I want my physical copy. I would, if Remedy announced, I've already purchased it digitally, obviously. If Remedy announced that there was a physical copy coming, like beginning of next year, I'd still buy it.
Yeah.
So that I had the physical copy.
Yeah.
That's just what I'm like.
I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
I just don't have any space. I'm
That's fair.
very much a physical girly. Like, I have like tons of books. I mean, I just barely got like a brand new book. Look at these pages. Anyways, I love books. Love books. I'm obsessed. I probably have. I mean, so I have a medium-sized box. I have about 14 or 15 of those downstairs that are almost full with books, and then I have my entire IKEA cube thing full. I have all under my desk, under my bed. There's more books. There's another thing over there. Books everywhere, and I just don't have any more space for books. So I've had to start buying. If a book doesn't have like a super pretty cover, or like it's not like I'm obsessed with like how it looks, then I've been buying them digitally, and it makes me so sad because I love the smell and feel of books.
Nothing
So
beats a physical book. So
no, there's nothing. Oh man, the smell of Barnes and Noble, nothing like it. Nothing like it. So
I mean, you're speaking to someone who has a DVD of every MCU film, even though I got them for free streaming on Disney Plus.
DVD or Blu-ray?
Just DVD. I'm
Really?
not. I don't. Blu-rays are typically more expensive, and it's like, well, when I can just get DVD and it runs fine for me. Like I'm not the 4K HDR guy that needs everything to be super high def. I just like, if it plays the movie and it looks fine, then it doesn't matter to me. So
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I definitely, my collection stuff is books for sure. Especially special editions. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. You know, the 19 inches. I'm scared. It's got me like looking at potential, like looking back, because I don't know if I've ever said this. This is again tangential. Don't know why I'm saying it. I mean, I do because it's relevant to this. But like, I did have the collector's edition for God of War 2018 pre-ordered.
yeah, and then
It
you
came out,
canceled it, right?
and I cancelled it because I was like, I just don't know if this game is going to be good. I was like, do I want to spend that much money on it? How stupid I was. I mean,
That
like,
was
it's
a
fair
little
because
silly.
the last God of War game before that was Ascension, and Ascension wasn't great. You know, famously.
I went the other way. I overcommitted. I bought a whole PS4.
Hey, I mean that's fair. But did you do that before like any previews or anything?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I did it like literally months in advance. Like the moment the
You just
pre-order
had
went
more
up.
faith than me.
Look at this. Look at this gorgeous PS4.
Yeah. But like, I was, because I don't really care about the Mjolnir that came with Ragnarok on there, and then I like diorama-y type stuff.
Okay.
Things that actually look like cool, like a statue. And the statue that came with God of War 2018 is cool, like Atreus and Kratos. And it's like, I could probably get that, you know, not cheap by any means, but less money than the collector's edition costs now. It's a slippery slope.
Yeah, it is.
I don't want to fall down it.
I've fallen into the book slippery slope. It's fine. I spend a lot of money on books. So
Yeah.
one of the books I ordered books in January that I still don't have. So
yeah, but you're being cultured by doing that. You know, you're exposing yourself to new stories, new voices. I'm just like, oh, that looks cool.
It's to be completely honest, the books that I'm waiting on are another set of Lord of the Rings, and I think I already have 2 or 3. So, but the pages, the edges are so pretty. Excited. Anyways, so yeah, lots of special edition books. Okay, just because I realized this recently, Because I don't talk about it on the podcast. So on the podcasts we talk about, because I'm on like an anime podcast, so I talk about anime. I'm on
Mhm.
Marvel, so we talk about movies, and on a
Mhm.
video game podcast, so we talk about video games, right?
Mhm.
Those are like the realms that we always talk about. I realize I
Mhm.
never really talk about books. I've read over 30 books this year, which isn't like a ton, but it's a lot. It's enough. It's enough.
Mhm.
And so everybody's like, "What are you doing all day, Brianna?" And I realized recently I'm reading, which I don't know how I was like. I was always just like, "Oh yeah, I'm just like sitting on TikTok," which is true. But I also read a lot, so
Mhm.
that's what
Yeah.
I wanted to bring up because
Mhm.
we never talk about books, but I read a lot. And the
So
new
outside of reading,
so good.
what have you been doing / playing?
Ooh, what have I been doing / playing? I wish I'd been playing Lies of P, but I haven't.
Mm.
Um, I have been playing League of Legends. Got pulled back in because of Heartsteel. If you guys haven't listened to Paranoia by Heartsteel, so good. There's okay, whoever is doing like the production for the music in Riot Games is like they're gods. They're gods among men. Like the production quality of these songs is so insane. And I could go on for about it forever. I like the whole KDA thing. I am just like a huge fangirl for like I'm pretty sure I've talked about it before, but the fact that they like made a whole band and then a year later brought the band back. But the way that they brought the band back was they made like Instagram and like Twitter accounts for this person that was like a fan of this band, and she was doing covers of their song and stuff like that. And then she like was the new champion that got announced a few months later. Like it's just so cool. Riot is like they're really doing something. They're really doing something, and so yeah. Every time like more music comes out, I'm like, oh, well, now I have to play League again. Um, so I haven't been playing a lot of video games, but when I do play video games, it's that. So I'll probably be
Mm.
picking up Final Fantasy 14 again. I've heard that there's like I think that there's some sort of like collaboration with Final Fantasy 16. And they're also doing the Fall Guys collaboration, as Sam saw yesterday.
Mm.
Ah, he was like upset at how my bunny boy was dressed. He's cute.
I heard in terms of that collab, because I did actually, I think, write about it for IGN. You can get Torgal as a mount, I think.
Ah, I did not know that. I haven't like read / seen anything about it, so
But spoilers, I guess. I mean, there's not really
no,
spoilers.
it's not really spoilers. Yeah. I just haven't like I was in another country for a while and kind of checked out, so
That's fair.
yeah. So yeah, I'll probably be playing some Final Fantasy. I got to catch up on the story. I'm behind on the story now with the new patch, and I have to catch up for this patch because I want to do high-end rating so bad. And if you're not max level by the time the new patch comes out, you literally just can't be in that patch's raids. Essentially,
Mm.
because if once people, because there's usually they release 4 sets of raids, and by the time you get to it, groups are usually on the second or third raid, and nobody wants to run the first one. So yeah, I want to do high-end rating so bad. So yeah, that's my plans and what I'm doing. Oh, and I've been watching TV and such. You still have to
Cool.
watch No One Will Save You. It's so good.
It'll. I think it's on the list, on the to-do list.
How long is this to-do list?
Not overly long.
Oh, really? My to-do list is huge. Particularly my
Well,
games to
yeah, but
play.
that's because you do stuff like just playing League of Legends and Final Fantasy 14 all the time. When you could be
Final Fantasy 14, I don't think counts. Because
and
that
rewatching Suits. And
I have not rewatched Suits. I've only seen it one time.
what were you rewatching recently? Then I thought you'd wait. So
Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
you wait. So but you have Oh, maybe what am I doing? No,
I don't know what you're
you were
doing.
talking about watching Suits recently, right?
Yeah, I did watch all of Suits, but it was the first time I'd
But
seen it.
right, I see. Okay, so I
I
got
do,
the two conflated.
the one that, just because we're talking about shows that start with the letter S, and this always comes in my brain immediately.
Succession.
I really want to watch Severance again. I
Mm.
feel like that show is going to be so interesting on a rewatch.
I'm gonna wait to do that until we're
Till the
very
second
close to the
season.
second season.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. But I can feel the urge, The
Mm.
show's calling me. I finally, I don't know why it took me so long, but I added the main theme song to my library recently, like
Mm.
my music library. So,
Mm.
don't know why it wasn't there, but here we are. Okay, well, that's chit chatting for 30 minutes. It's probably a good time to get to the
Jesus.
news. Do you want to do this first one?
No.
Okay, I can.
I mean, one of us has to take it. You know, the reason I feel like I want to defer to you is because you have game dev in your history.
Who, me?
Yeah. You know, the
Rude.
person
I'm
who
just kidding.
did game dev.
Yeah, and has
Yeah.
literally, my bachelor says games on it.
Yeah.
Isn't that so wild? My like literal degree says games.
Just
That's weird.
games. It's just the word
It
games
literally,
in
no,
big
it says a
bold
Bachelor
letters.
of Science in Games. It doesn't say video games. I don't know why, but it's called the BSG. So, you know,
BSG.
this is a tangent that's very important. I have mini stools in a box on my desk.
I don't feel like that was important at all.
It was important. They're right in front of me, and I had to say something about it. Okay,
Okay.
so very important. This is the worst. Okay, Bungie has been hit with unexpected layoffs. While the exact number of employees laid off is not known, many employees have posted that they have been laid off. The number is approximately 100 employees, or around 8% of the total workforce. Former community manager DMG posted about how, quote, continued echoes of poor decisions from poor management, end quote, led to moments like this. Some important things to note. These are just some random pieces. The layoff decisions came directly from Bungie management, not Sony. While this may be part of wider cost cutting at Sony, Bungie, as an independent entity, decides who gets cut, the timing, and terms. So basically, they're in charge of like how they save money. Internally, really, no one blames Sony for this, even management. Some employees were told that if the Sony buyout did not happen, the current Destiny 2 performance, the studio itself would have been in jeopardy if it was still independent. I can't talk today or any day. Bungie CEO Pete Parsons told workers a few weeks ago that the last big update, Lightfall, had underperformed in terms of cash and player retention, driving revenue 45% below projections for the year. Many employee benefits, not including health insurance, that's important. I thought it did include health insurance when I first read this, and I was so mad. I'm still mad, to be very clear. Many employee benefits only last until the end of the month if you're let go. Laying people off on the 30th, which is what they did, 30th of October, means a single additional day of coverage in all of those benefits. Many employees had unvested shares as a result of the Sony purchase. These shares would be received based on staying with the company for a certain number of years following the sale. But those shares revert to Bungie if you leave, even if you're fired. Yeah. Employees are extremely angry with leadership now and have often communicated that publicly in meetings. Bets were made that did not pay off, but those who made them remain in the company. Bungie responded saying that CEO Pete Parsons and some other executives previously forfeited annual bonuses before the layoffs, but the staff were not informed of this until after the layoffs. The sum total of bonuses given up is not clear. They like gave up $1,000. They're like, I gave up part of my bonus.
Here is 25 cents. You're welcome.
This makes me genuinely so mad. Really quick, Paul Tassi from Forbes, just to give credit.
Yes.
This makes me wildly angry. especially like all of this stuff, like letting people go on the 30th of the month and the benefits end the next day is awful. Like the whole thing with the shares is awful.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's all bad, but I think that is the worst part. Like health insurance and stuff, that's all bad. But for the employees to have shares that were specifically related to remaining at Bungie for a number of years before they became
And then they kick those
accessible,
people out.
and then they boot them out and they automatically revert back to Bungie. That's the
You
scummiest thing, I think.
you have to wonder if that's not part of why they did this layoff.
I mean, that's real speculative, you know?
It is, but like at least a small part of it, like, hey, like we don't have the money to keep these people and look at this extra benefit we get.
Sure. But like I don't get the vibe that Bungie is that scummy. Like that scummy.
I'm mad.
I mean, yeah, they're bad.
Yeah.
This sucks in general, but like I just don't get the vibe that Bungie specifically, given their history and the kind of dev that they have, you know, to their credit, proven themselves to be over a number of years. I don't get the vibe that is like even to a degree a driving factor.
Listen,
obviously it is a plus for them financially.
This whole thing is not a vibe.
Yes, I mean that's quite a delicate way of putting it, I would say. But like them saying that they had underperformed and that their revenue was 45% below projections. Like talking about failures of management, I think, what kind of projections did you have? Because it's not like I mean, I know Destiny, I don't play Destiny, but it's like I know that Destiny 2 isn't floundering necessarily. It's not as popular as it used to be, but I know it's not like failing by any degree. You know, it's still making money. It's one of the better off live service things. I mean, it's still around and it has been for a number of years, so that's testament enough nowadays. But like, what projections did you have that you're 45% below projections? Like the amount of spending that you must have done with the preconception that you were going to hit those projections, however absurdly high they clearly must have been. Were they really expecting Lightfall to be that successful?
Maybe. I don't know. They're like, this is going to revive everything and we're going to make so much money. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, I mean, the thing is like, this really, like, for the longest time, even though I don't play Destiny, I have, like, a little bit just so I could hang out with my brother, but, like, I haven't, like, fully committed a lot of time to the game. But from, like, my impression of Bungie, they really did seem to be, like, a good company, and this, like, really sours it for me. Like, and I know that this isn't going to affect, like, the general masses, but, like, I think that, like, people that are paying attention to the industry are going to be watching them now and like, hey, like, that was not cool kind of thing. So
I don't know that I necessarily agree with that in terms of a perspective shift on Bungie as a company. I think this is going to, or at least I hope, is just going to be more of a flare in the sky that is indicative of live service really dropping out of the general lexicon of the games industry. I think that we're kind of seeing the death knells of live service, or at least a large number of live service. Like, I don't really see Fortnite going anywhere, you know, but or like a Warzone or anything, because they're clearly shifting more into Warzone as time goes on.
So,
But like if Bungie, who were at least at some point the pinnacle of the live service, you know, with the original Destiny and then Destiny 2, really before Fortnite even kicked off, they pioneered this kind of game, really.
mm-hmm.
If these people can have this kind of sucky thing happen to them and to be faltering this much, it's like, well, hopefully this is a warning sign to the countless live service games that are being greenlit and being pushed by executives at various companies to be like, if Bungie can fail, then nobody is safe. So maybe it's probably better to just not go all in on live service.
That's not what's going to happen, but
you never know. I think it's going to happen at some point, because I think there are only so many big live service pushes that can fail before executives realize that it is too much risk, even if the reward is potentially insane. Like, I think there's going to be a point.
I mean, the thing is Bungie is not shifting out of live service games.
No. Well, not for the time being, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like you say, they're doing Marathon next, and Destiny 2 is sunsetting with the next expansion, which has been delayed. But yeah, like, could I see Marathon being their last live service game, at least for a while? Maybe. Particularly if Marathon doesn't really land. I don't see them continuing to try and do it. They'll still have multiplayer stuff in their games. They always do. But I think that there's a big difference between live service and multiplayer component to another game.
There is a big difference. Yeah, I guess.
I mean, Bungie did Halo before. Marathon, even as an IP, that was a narrative-driven first-person shooter. It wasn't a live service extraction shooter.
Yeah.
So the talents that probably were good at the single-player stuff has maybe been lost. But I still think that Bungie has the name recognition that if they announced they were working on a more single-player-y thing with multiplayer, you could draw in a lot of talent still, even with this massive road bump.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely. I mean, I want to be clear. Like, I'm not saying that like Bungie's screwed or anything like that. It's just like, I think that people are just going to they're going to kind of be under like a little bit heightened watch than they would normally be. Like, people are just going to be watching out for
people are going to look at Bungie and be, okay, this bad thing has happened. How are you going to crawl out of this pit?
Yeah.
Can you crawl out of this pit?
Yeah.
But like you said, I mean, you read it in the story that internally nobody is blaming Sony. I think that it's weird that, bless you, that some people.
How did the camera unfreeze?
I told you it happens. It happens. It's currently unfrozen. So
that's so frustrating. I was hoping you'd get away with sneezing.
It's frozen again now. So
dang it.
It was always going to happen that people online and in social media were going to like point fingers at Sony, being like, well, they acquired Bungie last year and now all these people are being laid off. It's like, well, it's very clear that this wasn't at least a direct initiative from Sony, directive from Sony, I should say. So like, if, as this story says, with the current trajectory of Destiny 2, the studio, Bungie itself, would have been at jeopardy if they weren't acquired. I think for the renown and the legacy and how important Bungie, even just as a name, is to the industry at large and has been for multiple decades at this point, I think it's better that they are under Sony's wing. You know, I was talking to Kyle about this in the Discord, but Kyle was like, I think they're still in danger. It's like, well, there's no way that Bungie is going to close down. Like that's just categorically not going to happen.
At least not right now.
No, I mean, if they continue to fail for several years going forward, then potentially.
Yeah.
But like,
Well, let's
for the
say that,
foreseeable future, Bungie is the biggest acquisition Sony has ever made. They acquired
yes.
them for their talent. They put in a bit over $1 billion specifically for retention of talent. They aren't gonna, because this one thing has happened and they're faltering slightly before they even put out a game underneath Sony's wing.
Right.
They aren't gonna cut the cord this early on.
Right.
So if they have, say, even if things continue to go bad and Bungie is shut down, worst case scenario, in like 8 years, they try 2 games, Marathon kind of flunks as well, and then whatever comes next after that flunks as well. If they're then shut down, that is probably a couple more years that they would have had to prove themselves and to try to claw back than they would have had if they had stayed independent.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, I mean, yeah, but still, end of the day, this sucks. Everything that happened here sucks.
Yes,
this is bad.
Absolutely. This is bad. Here's a question for you. Do you think that they have like enough that, like, let's say Marathon just like literally like flops, like full belly flop from a high dive? Like,
Yeah.
is Bungie still fine?
I mean, fine.
Like, do you think that Sony will be like, hey, like, I think it's better that we just like absorb you into other companies?
I mean,
or do you think that they'll be fine?
That's the most likely thing. I don't think that even if Bungie itself was shut down as a studio, I don't even think they want to do that, because Bungie in itself as a name carries so
There's
much
a huge
weight.
legacy with Bungie's name.
Like, so many people, just even if they don't know what Bungie has made, they know Bungie as a name.
Yes.
And that's kind of why I don't think they're ever going to shut down Naughty Dog, because it's like, even if Naughty Dog keeps failing somehow, I think that having that name underneath you is more important than potentially saving yourself a bit of PR in the short term for having a quote unquote failing studio as part of your first party portfolio. So I think that worst case, they would, like you say, absorb the talent within Bungie into other studios or create a new one, I guess.
Yeah.
Because of Bungie's size. But
I really don't think Marathon, like, even if Marathon flops, I don't think they're doing another live service action game after Marathon.
I mean, they've got multiple projects in the works currently alongside Marathon.
Oh my god. Anyways, sorry, that distracted me. So I think that, like, even if Marathon flops, they'll be fine, because like you said, they're like a legacy company. They've been around for a very long time. And on top of that, like, they are the Halo studio. Like, yeah, they are owned by Sony now, but like,
yeah,
like Halo,
well, and I mean,
from them.
Also, it's, you have to like put it into perspective. They haven't released anything under Sony yet.
Yes.
So, like, yes, Destiny 2 is still currently ongoing, and yes, it's floundering a little bit, clearly.
Yes.
But that's not a Sony thing.
That's a Bungie thing.
Destiny is their thing.
Yeah.
It just so happens that they are continuing to support that game, which already existed prior. So, and Bungie bought them because of their expertise within Destiny. So it's like Destiny 2 faltering and failing at the last few hurdles before it's sunset. That's not going to impact them in terms of Sony's perspective, I don't think.
No.
Because it's like, yeah, we'll get you off of this straight away, just onto the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
Marathon will be the first game that is released, but even then, Marathon has clearly been in development longer than before the acquisition. But of course, like, by the time it's released, it's a Sony IP. Like, I'm not doing the whole Bethesda thing that, oh, Redfall wasn't Xbox's fault. It's like, yes, it was. So Marathon is the first thing that they're putting out.
That would be Sony's fault?
Yeah, it would be Sony's fault, because Sony is the stopgap there. It's like, they have to QA, they have to internally test it. If it's Sony first party, would never have released Redfall ever. It just wouldn't happen. They would not allow that to happen. Whichever way you want to phrase it, Bethesda is now first party for Xbox. So it's like, yes, okay, they kind of operate as a separate entity, but it is under the Xbox banner. They are communicating. Their departments are working alongside each other, even more so
Mhm.
now because of Redfall. So it's like, yes, Redfall was in development before the acquisition, but it's still at the end of the day Xbox's decision to release that game on their platform. And it's not like they're stupid. They knew what that game was. They knew how it was performing. So it's like, even if it scored in reviews lower than they were expecting, they still knew that it was like at most maybe a 7.
Yeah.
And that's like real generous.
Mhm.
So it's like you can't cope for these people. Like Xbox were like, yeah, we'll put Redfall out on our platform. We'll make it one of the marquee titles of the year. Point me to an example where Sony has done that. First party. They haven't. And they
Yeah.
don't. So, like, and Marathon has been delayed. We know that. It was
Mhm.
clearly meant to be next year, because they say that it's been pushed out into 2025. So, if that means that they are making sure that they get it right, or as right as they possibly can, great. And if anybody has a chance at making a live service game that succeeds, I think Bungie is pretty high on that list of making it work, because they have done
Yeah.
multiple times at this point. So yeah, no, Marathon at the end of the day is not the deciding factor for the future longevity, livelihood, health of Bungie. I don't think. Obviously, if it sucks, that's a bad thing, and they're gonna have to
Yeah.
figure some stuff out. But Bungie lives on no matter what, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree with that. Next story?
Sure. A new report has claimed that God of War Ragnarok DLC will be announced before the end of the year, possibly, presumably, at the Game Awards. The news comes courtesy of Spanish outlet Area Jugones. That's probably Juegones, because juego is play in Spanish. So like
Do
that's
you,
probably what it
how
is.
much Spanish do you know? What just
I mean,
happened?
I learned Spanish all the way through my A levels.
That's crazy. All right.
So
I have
I mean,
never
I
been
dropped
so
it
bad
before I
at
went to
learning a
university.
language as
Yeah.
Spanish. I was really terrible at it.
Zanahorias, sacapuntas. Sort of, I just said carrot and pencil sharpener. It's like that. Hey, they're fun words to say. What can I say?
I
Spanish
know
is
it's
great
one
language.
sentence in French, but it's really inappropriate.
Donde está la biblioteca? Where is
Yes,
the library?
exactly.
Where
Yeah.
is the library? Yeah, so the news comes courtesy of Spanish outlet Area Juegones, which has previously reported on accurate leaks in the past. According to the outlet, the news comes from, quote, sources close to Sony, end quote, that claim the DLC could come, potentially, as its own standalone game, somewhat similar to Spider-Man Miles Morales
Yep.
or an Uncharted Lost Legacy.
They just call it God of War Atreus.
No, I can't remember who it was that said this. It was a podcast I was listening to, so I'm not going to take credit for it. But how wild would it be if, and they wouldn't do this because I think they might need the name recognition specifically of God of War. But what if, assuming that it is a Loki Atreus centric game,
Mm-hmm.
what if instead of God of War, it was God of Mischief?
Ah, that would be so cool. I'm telling you, every time something else comes out, my theory for what the DLC is going to be just gets like more likely. Like, I'm so
Yeah,
excited.
I mean, we're saying, that this is something that has been speculated on for quite a long time,
Yeah.
almost like assumed it was just going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
because Lost Legacy was relatively successful. Miles Morales obviously successful. So for that to percolate out into other Sony first party studios, not only because it lets them retain the quality that first party they like to retain,
Mm-hmm.
but also it means that they can put games out faster, even if they're shorter
So,
experiences.
my real question is like, does it even count as DLC? Like, I know it's technically like standalone DLC, right? Like, that would be like the technical term.
Yeah.
But like, isn't it just another game? Like, I feel like
What in terms of what? Like, what are you referring to? Something like Miles Morales?
Yeah, like if it does end up being something like Miles Morales, then is it really DLC?
No, that's not DLC. Like, if it was DLC,
But it keeps getting called Ragnarok DLC.
yeah, but then Miles Morales was called Spider-Man DLC, and Lost Legacy was sometimes referred to as Uncharted DLC. You know, like I think
It's just it's so common at this point that I feel like we need a different term.
well, I think the thing that I've heard, again, not taking credit for it, but like the thing I've heard going around is like expand alone,
Oh,
like a standalone expansion thing.
yeah, I like that.
But like you could call it a pseudo / semi sequel. I think that works fine as well. Like, yeah, if Miles Morales or Lost Legacy were DLC, you would still launch into the Spider-Man application on
Rather
your
than being its
PS4
own thing.
than being its own application.
Yeah.
So, like, and I know that that's a really objective way of looking at it. And people still say, "Oh, well, it's Miles Morales is 7 hours long if you mainline it, and that's not really a full game, is it?" It's like, well, it tells a full story.
Full games that are shorter than that.
Exactly. There are so many other things like. So what are you saying, that Inside isn't a full game? Are you saying that Journey isn't a full game?
Oh God, I love Journey.
You know, and obviously those are different kinds of games, sure, but it still doesn't, like, it's not exclusive to those kind of games.
Yeah.
You can call them shorter experiences if you want, that's fine, but they're still full games. If Miles Morales like ended on just an absurd cliffhanger halfway through the arc that it was trying to tell, maybe you'd have a point, but it doesn't. It tells a fully encapsulated beginning to end story. And I would expect this to be the exact same, regardless of whether it is actually DLC, you launch into Ragnarok and play something, or whether it is a standalone game. I fully expect Santa Monica to give us a fully complete, even if it's a mini, smaller arc. But yeah, no, it excites me.
Yeah.
And it could be coming sooner than we think. Like, obviously, a Game Awards announcement kind of does make sense.
Yeah, it does. I'm still going to be screaming, crying.
Burning Shores for Horizon Forbidden West was announced at the Game Awards last year, and was released early this year. So that's like a few months. And obviously, that actually was DLC. It wasn't a standalone game, but still, you catch my drift. It doesn't really matter, even if it is DLC or whether it's a standalone game. You could very much still, with the God of War name recognition at this point, you could still have a very short market to release window, or reveal release window.
I agree. And I think that would also help Sony with next year's kind of, we don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah. I mean, interesting conversation, like if we contextualize it within what we know about next year for PlayStation, I'm going to be optimistic and say that Wolverine is next year. I'm going to say, and if Wolverine is next year, it's going to be at the end of the year, like October, probably around Spider-Man 2. So like October / early November. That's where I would ballpark it.
No way.
Don't say no way. Insomniac have put out 4 games this gen. Don't count them out.
That's crazy.
Particularly if it is a more linear experience, not necessarily shorter, but linear.
I'm gonna message my friend that works at Sony.
See what they say. You know,
are you working on Wolverine?
I mean, everybody at Insomniac is basically now working on Wolverine. Like, whoever you ask, you're probably going to land.
When is it coming out? Yeah, no, he's an environmental artist. So.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're doing technically an unannounced, but they had job postings for a multiplayer game. So that's technically in the works as well. And maybe not. I don't think so.
Hey, take that back.
Yeah, I don't think it is. It would be cool. I'd love it, but I don't think it is.
I need
Fantastic Four.
I need a Miguel game, please.
No, it's not going to happen. Just wait for Spider-Man 3. God damn it.
Miguel.
Yes, but I think most of them have fully transitioned over from the Spidey team to Wolverine to get that out the door. Probably as soon as they
Or
can, you know?
or whatever the other theory that you guys are talking about for the not DLC.
I think they if that does exist, it's probably already in the can. They've already got it sorted. You know?
So then that would be next year.
Yes. Oh God, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. That would be
so
this
then
too.
Wolverine wouldn't be next year.
No, of course it could be.
Both? No way.
What a DLC for an already released game, and then at the end of
And
the
an
year, a new
entire
game.
other game from the same studio that just released an entire game.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
it's Insomniac we're talking about.
You're crazy.
They've already basically done that.
You're crazy.
They put
They're
out
crazy.
Miles
They're
Morales
crazy.
and they put out Miles Morales and Spider-Man Remastered at the same time at the launch of the PS5.
So do
Then
you
a
think
year, less than a year, well, actually just over a year later, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart came out, and then technically they took a break last year, but then they released this game this year. So
do you think
that's a bigger gap than usual between 2021 and now, and the Ratchet team, they were a fair chunk of them were cooking with the Wolverine team, because the Wolverine team headed by the guy that did Miles Morales. So as soon as he finished Miles Morales 2020, he went straight to Wolverine. He didn't do Spider-Man 2. Brian Horton went straight to Wolverine. So they were working on that game from 2020.
mm-hmm.
So 4 years for the development of an Insomniac game. That is a remarkably long dev cycle
Okay.
for Insomniac.
Important question. Is it going to be in the same engine that's running Spider-Man?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
it'll be
So
an
then they don't
Insomniac
have
engine.
as much work to do, right? I'm
Exactly.
sure it'll be a completely different environment. So they have to do like a full build of whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
depending on like how
probably a different
expansive it
perspective.
is, it could maybe not just be one city, it could be multiple.
I don't.
So
I did say that I think it might be in Madripoor, which is a Marvel city that Wolverine is famous for. It's like a Southeast Asian inspired city.
mhm.
Lots of neon and stuff, gritty underworld, that kind of thing. But like a jungle as well. I think that, or like a more natural environment, I think works for Wolverine as well.
Yeah.
A forested little rural town in the mountains or something.
Yeah.
But I think that they could do it. If anybody
Yeah,
can do
they
it,
could.
it's Insomniac.
They're just crazy. They're just crazy. All
So,
right.
so getting back to my point, if we have Rebirth early in the year, is
Yep.
that January? No,
Yes. Yes, it
is it?
is.
Okay,
Yes.
so that's kicking off the year. Then let's say I'm going to go crazy. You know, I'm going to be let
Okay, go
down, but I'm
crazy.
going to go crazy. I'm going to say, obviously, this God of War Ragnarok thing will probably get announced at the Game Awards, as
No,
this is
February.
implying.
Sorry.
February,
They're
still
releasing it
like
on the
basically the beginning of the year.
29th. Weird.
Still,
Anyways.
you know, potato is the beginning of the year. Let's say they announced the God of War Ragnarok thing and the Spider-Man DLC.
Not both at the Game Awards. The Game Awards haven't been that hype in a while.
PlayStation need a PR win if
Yeah,
they are
they
going
really
to
do.
if they're going to announce a few things that aren't necessarily their full-blown sequels to games that we're expecting, Ghost of Tsushima 2, yada
Mhm.
yada yada, Naughty Dog's next game, they'll save them for their own
Mhm.
showcase whenever they decide to do it. Hopefully sooner rather than later, early next year, but probably June time, which is when they usually do them.
Mhm.
They'll drop a few smaller, bigger, still big bombs like a God of War Ragnarok Expand Alone and Spider-Man 2 DLC, so that they can
Mhm.
commandeer the conversation, switch it back to say, hey, 2024 looked really blank for PlayStation, but you don't worry, you got plenty of good stuff coming. I think they could do that. Maybe not much more than that, if anything more than that, than those two things. But I still think it's possible. Again, they did Burning Shores at last year's, and they did Spider-Man 2's release date at Gamescom or Opening Night Live, whichever, or one of
Mhm.
Keeley's events. They did the release date. So, you know, they're buddy, and PlayStation needs a bit of a win.
Silent Hill 2 remake has to come out next year, right?
I think it's been rated as well. Like you can
Yeah.
pre-order it now, so it's got to be close to.
So that has to
And
be
they got
next year.
like third-party Rise of the Ronin. They've got Stellar Blade. Maybe if it still exists, Little Devil Inside, Helldivers
Concord.
2, Death Stranding 2 has been revealed.
What is this?
It could
Yeah,
happen.
that's true. That is true.
Probably not next year. I would say that's early 2025 if I had to wager.
Pacific Drive. Okay.
That's like a roguelite first person driving game, post-apocalyptic.
Oh.
That's pretty cool.
Okay.
So yeah, like God of War Ragnarok in the first few months of next year, like a month after Rebirth. I could see it happening. Easy.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
What happens next year? I honestly do think that the games industry has to slow down next year. There's no way we have another 2023 directly after.
No. I don't think we'll ever
But
get
we
a
don't.
year like this year again.
I disagree with that.
You think? What?
I mean, I think it'll take a
Outside
while.
of another
but
big pandemic that clogs up the backlog and then everything floods out, I just don't think it's going to happen naturally again, where we are getting this many big AAA games releasing week after week after week after week after week.
Listen, I get it, and I understand that this was like a unique circumstance, especially like with everything, like you said, getting like kind of held by the pandemic. But I don't think like with the games industry getting bigger, I don't think it's unreasonable to think like we might get something similar. Maybe not in like the next 2 or 3 years, but you never know. Cuz last year was still pretty crazy. Like even though it's not as crazy as this year. But yeah, I do think that next year will be not like dead, but I think next year will be a lull for sure.
Yeah, quieter.
And I'm okay with that. I have a backlog that's taller than me.
And there's stuff like
I'm very
Alan
tall.
Wake 2 DLC announced, like 2
Do you think that's
expansions
next year?
coming next year. Yeah, they've said it's next year.
Okay.
So, like next year might be the smaller game and DLC year.
Yeah. Listen, I need a quieter year. I'm trying to move next year, and moving is never fun. So I need a quiet year. Please. Next one?
Yeah.
Okay. Last of Us multiplayer director says he's still working on the project. As part of a tweet commenting on him finishing Super Mario Bros. Wonder, game director. Do you know how to say his name?
Like Vinit Agarwal?
Sure. Commented, quote, "And so this tweet can live on in peace. Yes, I'm still working on that game." That's funny. Okay, this comes after months, if not years, of speculation around the status of the maligned Factions 2, with multiple Q&A and contractor layoff, or QA, excuse me, not Q and A, QA, and contractor layoffs at Naughty Dog in prior months, and a report from Jason Schreier that the game was, quote, on ice as Naughty Dog shifted to other projects. This comes from Jordan Midler at BGC. I don't really have much
Not a massive
to say.
story.
No.
But like, I guess he's not going to say anything to the contrary.
Yeah.
Because they haven't officially announced that it's cancelled or anything.
I mean, he didn't have to say anything.
No.
He could have just kept quiet, which means that I'm inclined to believe him, right? That he really is still working on the game.
And like, Schreier did say that the game wasn't dead. He just said that it was a reduced team size and the Naughty Dog's priorities and focuses were shifting onto other things whilst it was bubbling away in the background. So
yeah, so it probably means there's like a core team that's prototyping essentially.
Yeah, well, I would probably say more than that, considering how long this thing has been in development. I'd say that it's probably like late stages of development, but it's just that they've had their obviously team size reduced and are just making what they have shine a little better. And
I mean, you don't think it's because to me it sounds like they're trying to rework like some of the mechanics and stuff like that, which would mean like another phase of like prototyping and stuff.
but how often do we hear that that is happening and it's all for naught? You know, like Avengers did that. Suicide Squad has been delayed multiple times in efforts to do that, to shift from a negative either public reaction or from bad internal play tests and stuff like that. There's only, you can't polish a turd, you know. You can't take a game that was built from the ground up to be a live service thing. You cannot fundamentally restructure it without basically beginning from scratch. And I just don't know there is enough investment from Naughty Dog. There clearly isn't, because they reduced the team down, to contribute additional resources to the extent that they really need to match it up to a Naughty Dog quality project,
Yeah.
to fully start from scratch and redefine what a Factions 2 is. So I think that they've taken what they had, reduced the team size, maybe not gone for it to be as expansive and breathtaking as they might have intended for it to have been conceptually years ago, and are just going to have that team bubble away at it and release a decent enough multiplayer experience at some point. I think that that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Next.
PlayStation Plus monthly games for November have been announced. They are Mafia 2 Definitive Edition for PS4, Dragon Ball The Breakers for PS4, and Aliens Fireteam Elite for PS4 and PS5.
Are you gonna platinum any of those?
Probably Mafia 2, because I played that back in the day and really liked it. I have platinumed the first Mafia game. I like those games. Mafia 3, not so much. But I have very, very strong nostalgia for Mafia 2. It has been on my wish list for probably 2 years at this point, and I have never pulled the trigger, but now I don't have to. So yeah, I'm currently working my way through. I actually have it on the screen currently. I'm not playing it, obviously, but I'm trying to finish platinuming the first Alan Wake.
The remastered?
Yeah, because I played through it before Alan Wake 2, and then I just need to do a couple of things in like the second run to get the last few trophies. So maybe once I'm done with that, maybe Mafia 2 is the next little side thing I do.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, you're probably set up here for another platinum wave, because you really slowed down on your platinums.
Well, I mean, I've got 2 platinums in the week.
Yeah, but like as compared to like before,
yeah, but then that's only when there's a wave of like relatively easy games alongside a game that I've been chipping away at in the background.
Right.
Only then do like the tidal waves of platinums come in. No,
it's free.
No. Yeah, but no.
Why?
Because it's impossible. Well,
it's not impossible.
Like, I have to be in a very particular mood to do that kind of thing,
okay.
to put myself through that kind of pain, and I'm just not there. Also, the fact that I went straight from Armored Core 6 into like 4.5 playthroughs of Lies of P. I'm a bit From Soft Souls-like out at the minute.
It's different. I'm just kidding.
It's got Souls in the title.
I'm not. I was streaming Dark Souls 3 yesterday.
So, yeah. But hey, we haven't seen what the catalog refresh is. Maybe there's like some more Paw Patrol games in there, or maybe there's like
There's always something for you.
Yeah.
Peppa.
Hey, that was like less than an hour. I'll do it. I'll do it again.
And I do it again. Okay. Next. And
do it.
Okay, after 2 years of development, director Chad Stahelski, I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that, has provided an update on the Ghost of Tsushima movie, confirming that the script is ready and they are close to moving forward. They've additionally acknowledged that they are currently waiting on the strikes to end before moving forward, which is a good thing. Quote from Stahelski. Wow, my brain mixed those letters up.
You got it though.
Thank you. Quote, we have a script. We're very close to getting our stuff together on that as well. Development is always tricky. Damn it. It's studios and strikes and availabilities and scouting. You have to will things into existence. I think the two things that I am closest and most interested in are Highlander and Ghost of Tsushima. Both amazing properties. The story of Ghost is also one of my favorite properties of all time. Highlander and Ghost of Tsushima. You know, the two franchises that are always spoken about.
Well, no, but the point is that he's doing a Highlander film remake.
I know. It just cracked me up. Also, it's really interesting for him to jump. Oh, that'll be
yeah, so
a good time. Yeah, now I am. Honestly, I'm really not that much of a sim for Henry Cavill, besides when he had white hair. I'm telling you, white hair is my weakness.
And he tossed it away. You know?
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's fine.
Such an idiot.
Not my
He's
problem.
like, oh, I'm going to get to be Superman again. And then he never got to be Superman again.
What a pizza head. So this comes from Grant Hermans at Screen Rant. So just
Hell yes.
I don't have a lot to say, except for there was some quotes in there where he was talking, or I guess not quotes, but he was talking about how he's doing his best to ensure the entire cast is of the correct ethnicity and like is speaking Japanese and
which is like
Mongolian and stuff like that.
Thank Christ. Like,
I know. Can you imagine Scarlett Johansson?
We are announcing Henry Cavill as Jin Sakai.
Genuinely, if this came out like 10 years ago, that's exactly what would have happened.
Yeah. It's like, yeah.
What a nightmare.
I cannot wait for this film. The idea of it is intoxicating to me.
Yeah.
Because of how visually striking the game is. If they can even slightly replicate that in live action.
Yeah. I don't think it'll be exactly the same, but I'm very much looking forward to it still.
But like, no, I mean, of course, no adaptation ever is exactly the same, but like for things as fundamental as emphasis on visuals and color.
Yes. I just mean like the whole like how everything is so like the cherry blossoms, everything is so like there's so many flowers, there's so much like so many leaves, all that kind of stuff. Unless they have like CGI helping them, they're like that's not.
Yeah, I mean they will have CGI helping them, but I think that is pretty fundamental to what makes Ghost of Tsushima not just another samurai thing. Like
the opening scene is gonna be him like riding the horse through the. Oh, it's gonna be so good. Sorry.
Gonna put his hand down and feel.
Yes.
As the windpipes come in, you know.
Is that going to be what convinces you to visit Japan? So you can go see the film locations?
What do you mean convinces me to visit Japan?
I've heard you not say anything about visiting Japan.
What are you talking about? I've said on several occasions, not only would I be interested in learning Japanese, but also that I'm actively wanting to go, if not anywhere, just Japan. I don't care about most other places, but Japan has always been on the top of my priority list and there's places I want to visit. Anyway.
Okay. I'm going next year. Let's go. I'll get you around. If I can get my mom around the country, I can get almost anybody around the country.
Anyway, this film I think has incredible potential. You know, Sony Productions have been real pushing into their video game IP. I think that this one makes more sense than most because of how visual the game is. And that sounds stupid, but you know what I mean. Yeah. In the same way that I think a God of War TV show or film or both also makes sense because of how cinematic it is and the whole one-shot thing. I think that could be very interesting if they try and replicate that for sections. But not only visually, I think that the director that they've got is perfect, because Chad Stahelski, history and stunt work, John Wick films,
Yeah.
which
I've not
are
seen a single John
incredible,
Wick.
frenetic action that is very well shot, creative, imaginative,
Have you seen all of
good
them?
use of environment in fights. I think that that's the kind of thing that, and also speaking about color, very strong palette choices and shot composition in a lot of the John Wick stuff. So I think that it's a match made in heaven, and he clearly, or he says, he cares about it as a property.
Yeah.
So, and alongside that, the fact that like the game and people from Sucker Punch were made official ambassadors for the actual Tsushima Island, I think they aren't going to let this one falter in those kind of departments. You know, representation, authenticity to the real place, honoring legacy and culture and all of that stuff. I think that those are going to be paramount to them. And I think if it's not, then why the hell is this moving forward?
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay. Do we want to hit this last one really quick?
Yeah.
Okay, go.
Sony has finally made an acquisition, everybody, and it's a big one. It's iSize, which is a UK company that specializes in deep learning for video delivery. Sorry to disappoint. iSize builds AI-powered solutions to deliver bitrate savings and quality improvements for the media and entertainment industry. The acquisition provides SIE with significant expertise in applying machine learning to video processing, which will benefit a range of Sony's R&D efforts, as well as their video and streaming services. It's coming from Yuli Galizzi, which is the SVP of the Future Technology Group. Not the acquisition news we wanted. I mean, not that I really, again, I don't like acquisitions really at this stage in the game where we're headed. But like when I saw this, I was like, huh. You know, like again, the PR stuff that Sony currently has going on. You're leading with this one. You don't have some, not that you need a megaton thing because you're still doing great technically.
I mean, this has probably been in the works for a while, though, right?
Like, yeah,
not
of course.
Like a long while, but
I'm being
timing.
Facetious. You know what I'm getting at. That being said, it's a good acquisition for them.
Yeah,
because they don't have as good streaming options and cloud gaming related stuff as Microsoft does, obviously. And this shows that they aren't being ignorant of that section of the industry becoming more and more prevalent as years go on. So if this helps them Sony wide across various things, not just like PlayStation streaming, but in terms of like their other services, streaming films from the Sony Bravia Core thing that they just launched as a not as a plus membership, but that you get whatever the hell that thing is. It gives you access to tons of Sony movies for free. It's a smart one, even if it's not a sexy one.
Yeah.
This is what you were waiting to hear, wasn't it?
I mean, that's what I talked about at the beginning of the episode. So yeah,
waiting for the day that iSize is acquired by Sony.
That I've never heard of. Yeah.
Yeah. You're like counting the days till it's made official, and here we are.
I have nothing to say about this. Good for them.
As a maybe just final little chit chatty thing, because we don't have any listener questions.
We don't.
But going off of this,
asked.
Obviously, PlayStation have said, talking about more sexy acquisitions here,
right?
Sexy in the technical sense, obviously. anti-consolidation, etc., etc.
From Software.
No, that's because we've had that discussion. We've talked about who should acquire. My answer is Remedy and then FromSoft.
Well, I was just saying, you said sexy, and then
sure, of course.
Yeah.
FromSoft makes sense. They already have stakes in Kalakawa, and they partially own FromSoft anyway. Kind of history. They develop Bloodborne exclusively. Yada yada yada. And I think Remedy are just a talented team, and the kind of stuff that they make works well within the portfolio of first party content. My question actually is that not talking about who they're going to acquire, because we've had that discussion, but they've said that they're going to make more acquisitions, and they've also said that they are not necessarily solely, but they are going to focus on IP-led acquisitions.
Yes.
Which makes sense. Good idea.
Bloodborne. Mm-hmm.
Maybe, don't hurt me. Instead of who, when do you think the next one is announced? Like the next, whatever it is, the next big sexy acquisition of a studio or publisher, whichever one it ends up being. When do you think Sony announces that? Because it's inevitable, it's going to happen, and it's a matter of who, but also when.
Well, I think we'll probably start hearing rumors in like December, would be my guess. I don't think we'll know for sure, but I think it'll probably say like, oh, like they've had conversations with such and such or whatever. And then we'll probably like not maybe the next time like PlayStation does something, whether it's like a state of play or whatever they do next, we might hear then, or it might be the one after that. But I think that this first one isn't going to be necessarily huge. I think it's going to be kind of like a ramp up situation.
But like, yeah, regardless of the size, whether it is a studio or a publisher, I think the next sexy one, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Because they could acquire 10 tiny independent companies that do this kind of stuff that Ice does. That's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
The actual developers or publishers.
I mean, in timeline with Remedy, like I think like they start talking to them like, hey, we see you did a good game.
I would be gobsmacked if both Sony and Microsoft haven't. I mean, obviously.
Oh, they're for sure wooing Remedy right now.
And I'm sure they have tried for years, because even Microsoft, going
That's
back.
what I wonder.
Is Microsoft technically did Quantum Break, and that was exclusive.
Yeah.
PlayStation never got Quantum Break.
Do you think Remedy doesn't want to be acquired, and that's why they haven't been yet? Because I feel like Control would have been the game.
I don't know, though. I don't know if it would have been. Because before Control, it was Quantum Break, and Quantum Break wasn't received that well.
Right.
So it's like Control was successful and it was a great game. I don't know how commercially successful it was. And also, at the time, Sony weren't really fully in the mindset of, oh, well, we've seen this one thing from you, so we'll acquire you, in the same way that they've done with like Haven and Firewalk and everything. Because typically they build up relationships over a number of years and then acquire them.
Right.
So like, I'm sure that Control got potentially a discussion started, but I don't know that Sony were like actively chasing them at that point. I think that with Alan Wake 2, offers are going to be made. If they aren't, I don't know what they're playing at. Because even if the games themselves aren't hugely commercially successful, like potentially other IP that Sony has, talent-led acquisitions is what Sony does. It's what they've always done. I don't know that there are many teams out there that are still independent that are as talented as Remedy.
Yeah.
So, like, if that's not high on your priority list, even if of just looking at them, there's potential. I think there's something wrong.
What do you think are the chances that Microsoft will swoop in?
I really hope they don't.
I hope so as well, but I wonder.
I mean, nothing's impossible. Microsoft can outbid Sony if they want. They just have more money to do that. And this isn't me like fanboying, I do think that PlayStation would be a better fit for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree.
In terms of the type of games that they like to make, clearly.
Yeah.
Which is third-person action games, which is, whether you play into the played-out commentary or not, that is Sony's wheelhouse.
Yeah, it is.
But also with Control and now Alan Wake 2 and the other stuff that they're building towards, we know Control 2 is coming and it's all interconnected, very heavily narrative-based, which, again, Sony's wheelhouse. And I think not only that, but also having the talent of the team in the location that they are, because that's Finnish primarily.
Yeah.
Alongside a team in that area, like a Housemarque, which equally does strange, weird games from Returnal going forward.
Yeah.
I think that just makes so much sense. I think Remedy would be more creatively fulfilled being alongside the likes of Sony's other first-party studios than they would alongside the first-party studios of Microsoft. They could be acquired by either or neither. I could equally also see them potentially being acquired by somebody like Epic. I don't like that at all, but obviously they have a publishing. Epic published Alan Wake 2.
What would you do if Microsoft bought Epic?
Cry.
No way.
And then quit the games industry just altogether. Because, like, how much is too much? We've had this discussion plenty of times, so I'm not getting into it.
But that would be too much.
I think Microsoft needs to stop and just
calm down.
Figure out the whole ABK thing, make sure they've got all of that under control, they can make everything work, keep the pipelines running smoothly, not have any massive F-ups.
Yes.
And then they can acquire a few more things if they need to, which I don't think they do. And if they do acquire anything else, it should be studios, not publishers. And it should be smaller studios, not massive studios, because they have so many studios now.
And they need to learn how to manage what they got. You know?
I mean,
it's like
they
how
clearly,
you're like
they're managing Bethesda so well,
Yeah.
They put out Redfall and then Starfield.
It's like they're grocery shopping and then going out to eat.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's happening.
The ABK acquisition was announced essentially a year after the Bethesda one closed. That is absurd. You're like, oh, we bought a super big publisher. That's cool. They haven't put out anything for us yet. We haven't, fully really in a year onboarded all of that workforce and made sure everything's going smoothly and checked out every single individual team and made sure that development of their games are going on across phases at a steady rate. We'll just go and acquire the biggest publisher in the industry. That's a great idea. TBD on how well that goes. But going back to the question, I think it's interesting that you think it might be announced at an event or like a state of play type thing. I think it will just drop out of the blue. I don't even think we'll get rumors.
You don't think?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because
I think we'll get the Sony is in conversations with
But did we get that with Bethesda? That dropped out of the blue.
I don't think
nobody was speculating on that.
Yeah.
Was anybody expecting ABK? And obviously those are different scales of deal, but even then you would have thought because of that we would have heard something.
Yeah.
Because of how monumental those things were.
You're right. I forget it's not Naughty Dog. It's Sony. My bad.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Naughty Dog leaks everything. I'm surprised we don't know what the next game is already. Outside of Factions.
I mean, we do, but
do we though? Really?
No.
Yeah, like I think I think it'll be relatively hush hush.
Yeah.
Because like we're past the point of acquisitions within Sony that makes sense. Like we aren't in the they bought Insomniac. We kind of already assumed that was going to happen sooner or later anyway. They acquired Housemarque. We kind of assumed that was going to happen one way or another anyway. They acquired Bluepoint.
Yeah.
That was going to happen at some point anyway, because they had the established working exclusive second party relationships for years, decades in Insomniac's case.
Oh my god, I want Bluepoint to redo Dark Souls 1 and 3.
No, stop it.
Please.
Stop it. No.
Please.
No.
Please.
No. So anybody's on the table.
Yeah.
They have to be for Sony now. Like it's just a different
including us.
Game that's being played. Hey, if anyone's listening, available, you know?
Same.
I will shill. You don't even have to pay me that much. Just you can buy me. I will disclose it, of course. I have to, but I'll do it. It's not above me. I will do what I need to. Right. So it could be Remedy. It could be FromSoft. It could be CD Projekt Red.
I don't know about that. I'm not saying it's a terrible idea, but of all the things to come first, I don't want it to be them.
You say that, but Microsoft has completely cannibalized essentially every Western RPG studio.
Yep.
CD Projekt is basically the only one left that is, not throwing shade here, of relevance or importance.
Yeah.
So if Sony wants the guarantee of any kind of first party RPG, and I mean RPG, CD Projekt is like, and you get the Witcher IP, you get Cyberpunk. I wouldn't call it. And not only that, but Cyberpunk and The Witcher have gone multimedia, which is also Sony's thing currently. They like having shows and films.
Yeah, I mean, I think they might be too big. Not for Sony to buy, but like they may just be okay on their own.
I'm sure they are, in the same way that many studios are. But if the offer is put in at the right time, it doesn't really matter.
I guess we'll see.
Like Bluepoint, before they were acquired, they were like, we like being independent. We are happy being independent. We can survive. And then 2 months later, it was announced that they are acquired by Sony.
Yeah.
So Remedy can say,
we love being independent.
Just being
coy.
Yeah. So Remedy can say, we're happy being independent. But then either something is already in the works and they're saying that because they can't say anything else, or just the right offer comes in and Sony or Microsoft or whoever are willing to make enough concessions to make the higher ups at that given developer or publisher happy, and the deal's done. So nothing is off the cards, I don't think, for Sony. I think that they know that. I think that they have to push hard, and I expect them to. To answer the question, just to round it out, I think by March of next year, we will know what the next big Sony acquisition is. Developer.
I agree with that timeline.
If it is a Square Enix, which I don't really want, it would make sense that after Rebirth comes out, put a ring on it. But I think even if it isn't Square Enix, that kind of makes sense. Like Game Awards has played out. You've had Rebirth, potentially a third-party game in there as well, and then a big announcement leading into a June showcase where you could then demonstrate the next thing from that developer or publisher.
Yeah.
Or tease it or whatever, So.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a good question.
What can I say?
Nothing. You could say nothing because we're done. We're leaving. Goodbye. Thank you so much for listening. You can find us on YouTube at Save the Game Media and Patreon, Save the Game Media. Don't forget to check out the Discord. The link is in the bio if you want to hang out with us. Link is in the description. What? Okay, anyway, sorry. My brain is tired now. I didn't sleep a lot either. Where can people find you?
Anywhere and everywhere at Sam Heaney, HEANY.
You can find me at Fabulous Brianna, FABULIST BREANNA. And again, thank you for hanging out. Until next time, bye.
Peace.